I've done a lot of thinking about what makes gacha games have such good music. And before those of you that are anti-gacha games show up here and you say, oh, well, it's because they want you to spend money, could you be right? No, you're not right. And I'll explain why. A lot of the reason why video game music and gacha music in particular is so good is the use of melody. Now, obviously, video game composers implement all sorts of different types of soundscapes and rhythmic patterns and melodic patterns to create and give us the feeling of emotion. We have to understand that video game music is programmatic. Video game music is written to tell a story. Video game music is written with the intent of making us feel things for characters, feel things for specific moments on screen, and have an emotional response to them. It doesn't matter whether it's a gacha game, whatever popular video game you love. The purpose of every composer in a video game is to write a piece so that you feel something. Doesn't matter what it is. Now, if feeling something for a character makes you spend more money, well, hey, that's a win-win. But no composer is like, I need to figure out how to get people to spend $1 million on this gacha game. It's just not going to happen. And so I've been really thinking about this because over the last year, I've been exposed to so many gacha games. And the one thing I would say about gacha game fans, doesn't matter if it's Genshin, Honkai Impact 3rd, Arknights, Limbus Company, the fan bases are ravenous. Now, you could say that some fan bases skew younger, and so they're more eager to hear their music. That's possible. But in general, the fan bases for all of these games are incredibly loyal. You could say it's Stockholm Syndrome because they've invested money or whatever, but there's plenty of players that are free to play. What makes these pieces so good? What makes these game companies create music that's so astoundingly wonderful? And so what I wanted to do today is take a look and break down why gacha game music is so good. You know, when we listen to Tartaglia's theme, we really get this sense of wonder. We get this sense of innate curiosity, of this forward momentum, of the beautiful strings. It feels like dancing on water. You know, why is it that this theme is so popular? I mean, my video on Tartaglia from a year ago is at 283,000 views, and I have to wonder why that is. And I think a large part of it is because people have invested a lot of time with all these games, all these gacha games. People invest a lot of time into these games, and so they become really well acquainted with the characters. They have an innate sense of feeling towards these characters. But again, that's the purpose of music. Music's purpose is to cause us to have emotions and to have feelings about the characters that we're experiencing in game. So I don't see how that's any different from any other popular video game. And Tartaglia's theme is very bouncy, playful, energetic. It uses true instrumentation. It's a real orchestra. It sounds natural. It sounds appropriate. You know, I went to a concert of Genshin Impact music, and this stuff is hard. This stuff is legitimately written. It is written with the purpose of causing a really intense emotional reaction, whether it's love, joy, sadness, fear. All of these things are interplayed into there, and Tartaglia's theme is one that really, I think, people love because of the emotional complexity of it. But then if you fast forward, Narwhal is the Punishing Gray Raven Nation national anthem. I think people love the way it starts because it gives you this feeling of excitement and possibility and curiosity and what's happening, and there's the high stakes. And ultimately, I think we do have to think about the fact that all video games, but especially gacha games, tend to have these really dark, serious stories that are very deep and emotionally very taxing, and something like that is really satisfying for people to play. Then, of course, you get this fat drop at the end, and it's natural that you'd be like, oh, well, that's actually pretty good. Well, don't get me started on that. I could listen to that all day. Or if you look at a piece like from Honkai Star Rail.
The way to celebrate, I'll be waiting till we make it. The day to celebrate, I'll be waiting till we make it.
It again, what do we hear here? We hear melody, we hear rhythm, we hear moving forward, we hear emotion, we hear purpose, we hear all the things that draw us to music generally. And yet for whatever reason, these pieces, every time I post a video about a gacha game, they automatically do well. And it's a really interesting thing, because maybe it's because people don't take these games seriously as much as people that play them would like them to. So there's a feeling of like, come on, listen to this, take me seriously, this stuff is good. For whatever reason, there's this giant stigma around these games, and I understand why, because gambling is a problem. Using money that you don't have for characters in a video game where you could spend that money to buy 4 other games, or, go to the grocery store, that's a legitimate concern. We can't deny the fact that gambling and self-control and all these other issues are present. But at the same time, we also can't deny artistry. And there is real artistry in these pieces of music, in these compositions, in these composers that write these pieces and write these themes. Another really great example is one of my favorite pieces from Arknights. So you say to yourself, well, Marco, that's just the stanchion written by Schubert from like 17 whatever. How is that even relevant to the conversation? And they took this and then they flipped it on its head and they said, oh, never mind, let's add a musical theater ballad over top of it. And this is what it ends up sounding like. What? How? And the point I'm trying to make here is that even though gacha games have this negative connotation in popular culture as being like money grabbing and intrusive and not necessarily morally correct, on the flip side, why is it that the fan base loves these pieces, and why is it that these composers write so well? And I think ultimately we have to understand the fact that like composers want to write music that moves people, and ultimately most of these themes are character related or place related. So instinctually, we want to have an emotional connection to a place or to a character so that we connect even deeper. The thing that happens here is that people play games, they get used to experiences, they discover and connect to characters because of story modes or gameplay, and so then when the music comes out relating to those characters, they can't help but feel a sense of acceptance or embracing of this music because it connects them to something that they truly love, which is no different than any other game. I find this whole like, oh, is it gacha thing to be a little bit funny, because some of the best music I hear day to day is from gacha games. And I only covered 4 of them here, but there's a lot of good stuff out there, and they shouldn't be denied musically. If you don't want to play them, I understand that. There's nothing wrong with not playing something because of self-control or whatever. I would feel free to check out the music for some of these pieces if you're one of these folks that hasn't necessarily ever really been into gacha games, because if gacha bad, why music good? And I think it's worth thinking about and asking yourself that question. If you like this, there's lots more on the channel. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.